How's it going out there, everyone? I want to talk to you today about the second season, third episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, titled Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Wow. What can I say about this except what a boring, dull waste of time. And I know that some of you out there who've seen this episode are going to say to me, well, wait a minute, what about this? What about that? It explains so much about the timeline and why this and what. Look, bottom line is about this episode is it was bad. It was just one piece to drag you to another piece to get you to think about another. It really, there was nothing substantial about this episode. It was just a basic plot just to get the relative of Khan into an episode with Captain Kirk. That's basically what this was about. And it really wasn't that good of an episode. Now, to be fair about this, I was in the middle of making a video basically saying the same things I'm saying now, except for I decided to stop, rewatch the episode. Maybe there was something I was missing and then go back to it. But at the same time, I also decided to look at other YouTubers and what some of them may have been saying. And almost everybody I came across was just raving about this episode. And I honestly do not know why. All right, so before we get into the video, I really would like to thank all of you who have subscribed to the channel. It is greatly appreciated. If you like this video, please click that like button. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, hopefully you'd consider doing it. The more people I have on the channel, the more I just will be able to grow and improve the content as well. Thank you so much for all of you who are watching this video. And now let's get into it. Okay, so basically my video is not going to be mostly a review, although I will be talking a little bit about the episode, but mostly it's a rant. Because there are things about this episode that make absolutely no sense to me at all. No matter how much they try to piece this thing together, it just comes across as being too many coincidentals. It just doesn't work for me. Now, again, as I said before, there are people out there who will probably rebuke or give me a rebuttal about what I'm about to say here. But this is how I feel about this, my friends. I was really disappointed with this episode. So the show opens, or the episode opens basically with La'an going through her security routines of the day, handling gripe sessions with people on board, such as theft, noise complaints, meaning somebody was complaining about the music that Spock was playing. He was too loud. And of course, there was also complaints about theft. Chief engineer here, as we all know, she has quite a long lifespan, and apparently has created or collected quite a collection of historical items throughout her life. More or less, it don't look like they were stolen, but she says that they were hers. And of course, to vent some anger, she has a sparring session with the doctor, who's basically trying to be her friend and tell her, you need to vent, you need to learn how to deal with this baggage you've got, meaning the history between her and her ancestor Khan Noonien Singh, but she wants to bottle it all up to keep it to herself. And while walking one of the corridors, a loud noise comes across her, and she notices a man suddenly appearing, running across the hallway, screaming for help. The man has gunshot wounds and tells her that he was in the past and it was attacked, major event. You need to save the past. And by the way, you need to get to the bridge. Not before giving her a temporal device. And then after he does that, he vanishes, or more like dissolves. But this scene right here kind of confuses me when you consider that the sick bay has a medical transporter. She could have picked up that communicator real quick and had him beamed to sick bay, but that's not the way they're playing this. She heads off to the bridge, and to her surprise, it's not Pike, but Captain James T. Kirk. Captain Kirk of the United Earth Fleet ship Enterprise. Starfleet doesn't exist. The Federation doesn't exist. LAAN is now in an alternate timeline, talking to a Captain Spock from Vulcan, who is pleading for his help in their war with the Romulans, considering the Romulans Empire has wiped out the bulk of the Vulcan fleet, and without Earth's help, the Vulcans will be annihilated. Kirk's answer to that is, I'm sorry, you've got your problems, we've got ours, we have our own issues with the Romulans. This part of the episode I actually did like, the back and forth between LAAN and Kirk over how she got there, whether her timeline still exists, and how she pleads with him to help save the future of humanity. They need to go back in time and figure out how the damage was done. He wants her to give over the device, and LAAN is refusing, but at that moment, some point in their little grab, they hit the button and they are teleported into the past. Kirk thinks they're in New York. LAAN tells him, no, we're in Canada, we're in Toronto. And she's surprised at the fact that he has never really seen Earth. He was never born on Earth. He was born on the USS Iowa. Not in Iowa, but born on the USS Iowa. And that the world he knew as Earth was pretty much a nuclear wasteland. And here comes one of my problems. This little scene right here, when they've decided that they need to get into some 21st century clothing, they walk through a revolving door, and Kirk can't figure out how the revolving door works. And his excuse is, I'm from outer space. Are you kidding me? This is not James Kirk. This is not even just an intelligent person who couldn't figure out how to work a revolving door. After some wardrobe changes, they decide that they're going to have to steal the clothes because they don't have 21st century currency. So LAAN decides to slip a piece of clothing into an unsuspected lady's purse, setting off the security devices and allowing them to slip behind them as the security officer is questioning the woman and how the product got in her purse. Now, there's so many questions and so many ways I could ask this, but she's from the 23rd century. How would she know about the security features of the 21st century? How would she have known by putting that little thing in the purse? It would have set off the alarms. Now that they're outside the store, they try to figure out a game plan, but before they can do anything else, they realize, number one, they can't go around stealing anything anymore because that's going to just attract a lot of attention. So they need to get their hands on money. And how do we solve this problem? Well, they just come across a game of chess where Kirk wins massive amounts of money, apparently. Apparently, they can make money off of playing chess, and that's quite an understandable thing. But at the same time, the problem with this is, what did Kirk offer up as collateral if he loses the game? Obviously, he wins. And the first thing that Kirk does is go off and buy a couple of hot dogs. And then they discuss their game plan for how to figure out why them, why are they here, and how do they figure out where they need to be to solve this disaster that's going to take place. Kirk admires the sunset because he has never seen one before, at least not one without any ash clouds all around the planet Earth, because there was a major disaster in the 21st century, and everyone apparently is underground in bunkers, kind of like space battleship Yamamoto. The Earth was being bombed. Now, I mentioned to you before that Kirk won a lot of money playing chess, but damn if I didn't realize how much money did this man make in playing chess, because look at this place that they're staying in. They had a big hotel room. Isn't that a hotel room? This is a suite of some kind. It's got a bedroom, a living room, a massive living room. It's almost like a penthouse. Kirk's all excited about the bar that it has. And at the same time, LAAN wants him to sit down and figure out what's changed about his timeline and what's different about hers. Maybe they can compare notes and figure out what event has taken place or has changed that they can repair. He doesn't want to help her. And I can't blame him because his logic is sound in one way. If I help you repair your timeline, then my timeline exists. Everything about me, everything about my life, it all goes away. And she reminds him that his life, his timeline, it sucked. They were in the middle of a war. They didn't live on Earth anymore. While her world is basically the world we all know from Star Trek, the utopian society that's around the entire Alpha Quadrant. There's not as much violence going on, but it's definitely more peaceful than the war that in the hellhole that he's from. Not to mention the fact that she tells him that he still exists in their world. She's never met him before, but she knows he exists from his reputation, and his brother is still alive. As I said before, there's a lot of coincidences and just things that just keep running along. They just happen to be in the right place at the right time for certain events to take place. Nothing is leading them to these events. They're just right there when it happens. Case in point here, they happen to be having a debate at a window at the exact moment a bridge that they can see from their window explodes. While they're on the scene, they notice that some of the debris looks suspicious. So they walk over to this person taking camera shots and ask to see if they can see some of the pictures. She has no problem showing them the camera shots, and it looks like it is a atomic bomb, a weapon that is not going to be developed for over 100 years. So in order to follow this truck that has this evidence that they want to look at, they decide to steal someone's car. And as stealing goes, it's not a bad car to steal. They follow them through downtown Toronto, where the van gets stopped by a police barricade. Excuse me, not a police barricade, but the police have stopped it because of construction issues, and the truck decides to turn down a different road against the police's wishes. So in one of the most ridiculous scenes I have seen yet, from a man who has admitted that he's never been to Toronto, even in the 23rd century. Suddenly, this man, after seeing the truck swerve down a different road way ahead of them, they can't catch up to it, Kirk puts the car in reverse, hits the gas, and suddenly knows his way around Toronto, driving through buildings, driving through intersections, and is able to catch up to that van. Not bad for somebody who doesn't know any way around this town, especially in the 21st century. Unfortunately for them, because of his fantastic driving skills, he attracted the attention of the police that caught up with them and arrested him, for not driving with a license and reckless driving and all sorts of other things. But our mysterious camera person has shown up out of the clear blue and is recording a live stream of the cops harassing them, claiming that Kirk is some kind of civil rights attorney from America, and they know who he is, so they arrested him or are persecuting him because of his legal premise, because he's a famous legal activist. The cops get tired of this back and forth, but before anything else happens, they get a call on the radio about some other police chasing and need help. So they decide not to play around with this issue, let them go, but warn them don't do it again. Kirk walks over to her and says, "Thank you, but you do realize I'm not a civil rights attorney." And she's like, "Yeah, I know." Basically, she's following them because she thinks they are heading in the same direction, following the same truck with the same debris, and she's somewhat of a conspiracy theorist. Best way to describe her, she believes that aliens have come down to Earth and they are responsible for all the things that are going on around the world. Not just now, But in the past, she believes that they were part of the Kennedy assassination. They were a part of some gas line explosions and other major events to slow down humanity's progress toward one, uniting as one world, and two, going into space, which is one reason why the bridge was detonated, because it was a symbol of unity, worldwide unity, and aliens couldn't have that happen. So they go off with her to have something to eat because she's got evidence to show them, some crazy stuff to show them. And again, it's just all coincidental how all this stuff seems to be connecting. She shows them images of sites that have been monitored over the years, military sites, oil sites, and special aircraft. Gee, does that look familiar to anybody? After they part ways, Kirk tells LAAN that she's right in some ways. I mean, first of all, one of the things that they saw on that tablet was a Romulan warship. Second of all, a cold fusion reactor. One of the things she did discuss that they claimed to be spying on in his timeline would be destroyed in the next 2 days through a first wave Romulan strike on Earth, which would basically annihilate Toronto. LAAN reminds him that this is the type of thing that did not happen in her timeline, the one they are currently living in right now. So now they need a tricorder, or at least something that is going to detect a radiation from a cold fusion reactor, because they have to stop this thing before the alien or the time traveler destroys Toronto. Again, while the episode is happening and they're discussing how to figure out how to make a tricorder, something to detect this radiation, they pass a television talking about a weather system moving in toward the Vermont area, and LAAN remembers that her chief engineer used to live in Vermont. Now, remember before when I asked you how much do you think Kirk made at that chess table? I mean, think about this now. Again, the hot dog, the hotel, the food at the restaurant, and now a taxi cab all the way to Vermont? How much money did he make? Commander Pelia. Yes, but she's not a commander now because Starfleet didn't exist, but she has lived on Earth for a very long time. And in this part of history, she is somewhat of an, I guess, collector of arts. She helps them figure out that a watch with certain feature modifications could detect tritium in the air, because tritium has a short lifespan, so they'll be able to use it as a Geiger counter of sorts. So back to Toronto they go, searching for tritium all across Toronto, and sooner or later they do run across it, but not before something else happens. That's right, they are falling in love. Gee, could not have seen that coming, right? I mean, after all, this is supposed to be the love story of LAAN, Noonien Singh, and Captain James T. Kirk. They find the building. But wait, it's not about a cold fusion reactor. Noonien Singh Institute? Well, can we guess who lives here? And conveniently, LAAN's hand triggers a door that'll get them into the Institute, but not before they have a nice little surprise. Our friend here is a Romulan. That's right, she's a Romulan. And as I said to you before, she's been, or rather, her kind have been on Earth messing with the timeline, trying to stop the creation of the Federation. And no matter how hard she tries, no matter how much the Romulans try, history always seems to get in their way. Pushing things back, yes, but still time moves forward. They can't change things. So the original plan was to destroy this fusion reactor, but since they showed up and things started messing with the plan, the new one, at least for her, is to kill Khan to stop the eugenic wars. She tells them that she's going to shoot them if they don't get her into that building or into that laboratory. And Kirk responds with, hey, if you shoot one of us, the security systems will go off and your plan will be foiled. She doubts them, so she shoots Kirk. She tries to tell him to hang in there, but he dies, and the Romulan is quite happy about it because she believes she has killed off the James T. Kirk, not the alternate timeline Kirk that we are watching here. Her plan is to kill off the child Khan. Kind of doing a Terminator 2 movie here, people. Lon proceeds to tell our Romulan friend here that, hey, I am a relative of Khan's, so no, you're going to have to kill me in order to get to him. And the Romulan's like, why? Why? Do you realize what kind of man he is? What harm would it do? They have their fight. Lon is able to grab the gun from the Romulan and kill her. And then she gets to meet the boy, Khan Noonien Singh, who first thinks that she's going to kill him. She convinces him not to worry about it. Are you going to take me away? No, you're fine. You're right where you're supposed to be. She accepts who Khan is, and she accepts her destiny, her fate, in being a relative to this tyrant. And then rather than walking out of his sight, she teleports away from him, right in front of him. She goes back up to the bridge and finds Pelia #1 and Pike. And Pelia is pretty much continuing the conversation that she had at the beginning of the episode, debating all the artwork that she has confiscated over the years. When she returns to her quarters, an agent from the Federation's Temporal Investigation Team appears in her quarters, waiting for her. Lon's like, I've never heard of that before. That's because it doesn't exist in your time. It's something from the future. And what you just did was a great service to the Federation and to the timeline. You weren't supposed to be there. One of our agents got caught up in something, got killed in the process. Thank you for finishing off his job. You can't tell anyone at any time about what happened in the past. You'll affect the timeline. How does that affect the timeline? Something that's happened over 200, 300 years ago. If I tell somebody that, hey, I was a part of the Kennedy assassination 70 years ago, would anyone believe me? No, they'd think I'm crazy. So how would her telling these events that happened, would anyone believe it after all? When she contacts Kirk a little while later, she thinks that he knows him, although she does understand that it's a different timeline. But still, they have a conversation about his brother, and she has a hard time grappling with the idea that he doesn't know her anymore after the events that they shared. It was a major traumatic experience for her, and the fact that she lost someone that she absolutely started falling in love with is just unbelievable. And for this agent to come along and say, you can't tell anybody, why? Who'd believe her? Their conversation over, the temporal agent leaves, leaving Lan alone in her room to cry out all the stress that she's gone through. And that is this episode. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Okay, so I know that they had a good idea in mind when they thought this thing up, but to me the execution was terrible. Putting these two together just didn't work for me at all. First of all, Kirk, while he had some good moments here, he still came across as being weaker to Lon, who came across as smug and superior throughout half the episode, especially that one bit where he can't figure out how to go through a turnstile or a revolving door. Now, I will admit the one scene I thought was very intriguing in all this was the fact that she's standing next to a little boy who's Khan, soon to be the war tyrant that we've all come to know, and some of us love, especially in Space Seed and the Wrath of Khan. But that's not who this is right now. He's just a little boy, and she is facing her demons. This is a good scene right here, but for the most part, I thought this episode was bad. It just didn't work well for me. When he was shot, why didn't he go back to his people, his timeline? He shot over to the Enterprise? That somehow probably broke so many protocols, it's unbelievable. Okay, so I've ranted and given you my little review of this episode. So tell me what you thought. Have you seen it? Tell me what you think about it. I want to hear your thoughts, your comments. And until the next time, my friends, God bless.